What you just saw were just a small amount of posts I found on Tumblr under the hashtag TCC. The tag is now thankfully banned on Tumblr as of uploading, but before then I would see hundreds, if not thousands of posts like you see on screen now, raving and ranting about mass killers. Now, let's dive back a little into the background of who these main mass killers are and why teens are so drawn to them. This is Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris, the two perpetrators at Columbine High School who ultimately killed 12 students and one teacher, then later themselves. This is one of the most well-known cases as it sparked nationwide debate on gun control and school policies, and later leading to a high percentage of copycat attacks. While true crime as a whole is a very common genre as of late on social platforms, the TCC posts odd and morbid things on social sites like Tumblr and other crossing platforms, often creating fan art, fan edits, and even recreating Adam Lanza's home in Bloxburg, a popular life simulation and roleplay game on Roblox. Even some go as far as purchasing schoolwear from the school the attacks took place at.
The girls likely didn't realize the camera was recording everything as they joked about going to jail and talked about becoming famous in true crime communities. It's gonna be over by tomorrow. Everyone who prayed for my downfall is getting their wash. I hugged my parents extra tight today. I feel kinda bad for what's coming. Messages investigators say Isabel Valdez sent her friend, Lois Lippert, as the two planned to murder their Lake Brantley High School classmate in January, not realizing another friend was about to turn them both in. Prosecutors now using these messages and other newly released details about the plot to convince the judge to keep the girls behind bars for a second time. In addition to discussing Valdez's obsession with Sandy Hook school shooter Adam Lanza and how the murder would supposedly bring him back to life, they released details of what Valdez and Lippert thought was a private conversation in the back of a patrol car. The girls admitting it was over, making jokes about their mugshots, life in prison, and their murder plans. Valdez hoping she could be checked in to a psych ward.
Now, why exactly do these so-called TCCers feel so quote-unquote connected to these mass shooters? Research shows it mostly stems from relatability, anxiety, depression, or even self-isolation. Think back to your own schooling years, middle school, high school, and sometimes even college. Even if you were prom king or queen, participated in school sports, or even considered the popular type, there were always those kids who seemed sheltered off from the world. An article published by the National Library of Medicine is cited stating approximately 88% of school shooters had at least one social media account and 76% posted disturbing content of guns and threatening messages. Over 72% of shooters had at least one reported adverse childhood experience, and 60% reported being bullied in person or online. While this does not excuse the action, we have to remember that as children, our brains are still rapidly growing. Every single experience you encounter as a child can affect the way the rest of your life goes. While perpetrators like Klebold and Harris have contradicting reports of being bullied while also bullying others, another assailant, the Uvalde shooter, Salvador Ramos, was reportedly bullied at the school in previous years and had links to a neglectful childhood. Some perpetrators were reportedly seen as weird or strange, like the Stoneman Douglas shooter Nicholas Cruz.
A big event. And when you see me on the news, you all know who I am. You're all going to die.
Classmates often said he was strange and odd, commenting that he socially isolated himself from his peers often. Though this does not mean every single kid in school that has interests others see as weird or quirky are automatically school shooters or will eventually quote-unquote become one.
Washington Post says at least 185 children, teachers, and others have been killed and 369 injured in school shootings. More than 300,000 children in more than 330 schools have also been exposed to gun violence during school hours. ABC News medical contributor and Stanford Children's Health physician Dr. Alok Patel joins me live now to discuss the mental toll these shootings can have on children who survive them. Dr. Patel, thanks for being here. You say that gun violence should be viewed as a public health problem. Why?
And Diane, good morning. It's good to be here with you. And I am by far not the only person who thinks that gun violence should be viewed in a public health scope, but this is also echoing major medical institutions, including the CDC. You know, if we just look at motor vehicle accidents, which used to be the leading cause of death in pediatric population, that has now gone down because it was viewed in the same scope we should be viewing gun violence as. When you identify the problem, you're now going to be looking at data related to harm reduction. How do we reduce the amount of gun violence related injuries and deaths? How do we actually put that and implement that into communities, identify risk factors, look at what works, and then look at widespread adoption? We remove the politics and just go straight to the data. That is what we've done for everything from motor vehicle accidents to influenza to COVID-19 to drowning. That is what we need to do. That is what the new current CDC funding hopefully is going to accomplish.
Roughly 20 to 30% of perpetrators show some history of mental health concerns, but the vast majority of people with mental illness are not violent towards others. I feel like this is very overstated. People often cling to mental illness as an excuse. While it is a factor in some incidents, it paints people suffering from mental illnesses as someone with violent or homicidal ideations, when that is not always the case. In reality, huge factors that play into school shooting incidents are lax gun laws, notoriety, easy access to firearms, and possible influences via the internet, like I discussed earlier. While the TCC is possibly considered a hidden part of the internet, a more recent mention of this came to light when a 15-year-old student at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin, by the name of Natalie Rupnow, opened fire at her school on December 16, 2024. This resulted in the death of 14-year-old Ruby Vergara and Aaron West, and later the injury of 6 others. Rupnow went on X, formerly known as Twitter, posting a photo of her in what looked to be her school's bathroom, doing an OK sign with her hand, and linking her manifesto to the post as well. On the post, there was one comment that read, quote-unquote, "live stream it." At the time, it seemed like just another X user who scoured the same posts and forums that Rupnow viewed as well. Later on January 22nd, 2025, that would turn out to be none other than Solomon Henderson, a 17-year-old student attending Antioch High School in Nashville, Tennessee. Henderson entered the school's cafeteria during their lunch period and fired 10 shots in about 17 seconds, killing 16-year-old Jocelyn Escalante and injuring a 17-year-old male student, then later ending himself at the scene. An article later published by PBS Wisconsin mentioned how Rupnow and Henderson did not know each other physically, quote-unquote. The two teenagers were active in the same online networks that glorify mass shooters even crossing paths. Across various social platforms, the network trade hateful memes alongside terrorist literature and exchange quotes on how to effectively commit attacks and encourage others to carry out their own. End quote. Henderson was later reportedly making posts bragging about how he knew a school shooter in real life, often calling her a saintress, which is a gender variation of the word saint, or sometimes known as a slang term common in certain online extremists and mass shooter glorification networks they both frequented. The scariest part is that these tragedies are very real. People lost their families and their friends, while dark parts of the internet are still turning these mass shooters into something to admire. If you made it this far into the video, please consider liking and subscribing, and feel free to request any video ideas in the comments or to my email at donotdisturbdocs@gmail.com. Please note, I do not condone any actions mentioned, and I hope for peace for the families, and please let it be known that I 100% support stricter gun laws and have absolutely no remorse for any of the perpetrators in these cases.